Hi, I'm Glenn Rogers, and this is Biblical Insights. The title of our video today is Can They Trap Jesus? And this is section number 56 of our study of Jesus' life and ministry based on the Gospel of Mark. And our text today is taken from Mark chapter 12, verses 13 through 17. Now, you remember, this is the last week of Jesus' life, what some people refer to as Passion Week, and he's going into Jerusalem each day and teaching people and interacting with people. And on this occasion, the religious leaders send some people to talk to Jesus. So let's read this text and see what Mark has to tell us about this particular occasion. Now, we'll be reading from the Simplified New Testament, as we normally do, which is my translation of the New Testament. And beginning with verse 13, Mark says, "The religious leaders sent some of their people who were Pharisees, along with representatives of those who favored King Herod's rule, Herodians, to Jesus in hopes that they could get him to say something that would cause him trouble. 'Teacher,' they said, 'we know you are a good man who does not care about the opinions of even important people. You teach the word of God truthfully. Tell us, is it right to pay taxes to Caesar? Should we continue to pay or not?' Jesus knew that their question was not an honest one, but one intended to cause him trouble. 'Why are you trying to trap me?' Jesus said. 'Bring me a coin.' They brought him one, and he asked, 'Whose picture is this on it?' 'Caesar's,' they said. 'That's right,' Jesus said. 'So give to Caesar that which belongs to him, and give to God that which belongs to him.' And they were amazed at how Jesus had answered them." Now, this is a very interesting text because of some of the things in the Old Testament and the socio-political situation that existed in Israel at the time. God had made some very specific rules in the Old Testament under the law of Moses, the Mosaic covenant, and you remember the 10 Commandments that we read about in Exodus chapter 20. Those are just the first 10. They're kind of like the introduction to get everybody thinking along certain lines. But there were 603 other commandments for a total of 613. Very extensive law that was designed to govern not only the religious life of Israel, but also the social life. They were a theocracy. God was their king, and the law of Moses covered everything that God wanted covered about daily living. And there was some stuff in there about who you could pay taxes or tribute to, right? And God didn't want foreign powers coming in and creating problems, and the Israelites paying taxes to foreign powers and that sort of thing. And that was fine as long as things were the way they were in the Old Testament. That was working out. But world powers had come along, very large, very powerful. You had the Assyrians, followed by the Babylonians, followed by the Persians, followed by the Greeks, followed by the Romans, right? And these were powerful kingdoms. And the time that Jesus lived, at the time we're reading about here, the Roman Empire was massive and powerful. It was the power in the Western world at that time, probably in the entire world. And they required that you paid taxes. Well, this bothered a lot of the Jews because they, number one, they just didn't like being dominated by a foreign political power. They wanted to rule themselves. They always had, except for short periods of time when other powers came in and dominated them. But they had always ruled themselves, and they took pride in the fact that God had said, you talk to me. I'm the king. You talk to me. And even when he established a physical king, Saul, David, Solomon, all of that, the rule was still supposed to be those kings under God's authority. And the idea of paying taxes to another political power was just something that they didn't want to do. The law had said not to do it, and it left a bad taste in their mouth, to use a metaphor there. But Rome insisted, and they were powerful enough to insist. If you didn't pay, they would punish you. And there was a lot of talk, in that day. Well, should we pay or should we not? Yeah, but if we don't, they come and kill us. So it was a big debate, and so they thought we can get Jesus with this one. We can get Jesus with this one. If he says to pay, then we can accuse him of violating the law of Moses, because it says don't do that. And if he says not to pay, then we can accuse him of violating Roman law, and that'll get him in a lot of trouble. So either way he answers it, he's going to be in trouble. We got him this time. All right, so let's go ask him this question. See, that's what they were thinking. So they sent some Pharisees and some Herodians. And the Herodians probably went because they were a political group, and they lent some credence to this idea of paying taxes or not paying taxes. It's one of those questions. So they go to Jesus and they ask. First, they try to butter him up. First, they give him a bunch of compliments, right? Oh, you're a good man, and you teach the truth. You don't care what anybody thinks, and so and they weren't being sincere. They were just blowing a bunch of smoke. They were just trying to say something nice about Jesus to Jesus, so that they could make him relax, is what they thought. But Jesus saw right through it. He says, okay, I know what you're trying to do here. Why are you trying to trap me with a question like this? So give me a coin. And so he gets a coin, and he says, well, whose picture is this on the coin? And they say, well, that's Caesar's. And that's true. They minted coins, and they put Caesar's image on it. And Jesus said, that's right. So give to Caesar that which belongs to him, in other words, money, and give to God that which belongs to him. And the Pharisees just stood there and looked at him. They had no way of answering that. They hadn't anticipated it. They weren't smart enough to have anticipated it. They had no clue. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to respond. And so basically they just probably, bowed their heads and turned and walked away, because Jesus had defeated them. They could not trap Jesus. But there's some interesting things here. What did Jesus mean when he said, give to Caesar that which belongs to Caesar? Obviously, that's the coin. If Caesar wants the money, give him the money. It's his, got his picture on it. But then Jesus says, but give to God that which belongs to God. Now, what did he mean there? Well, each person, each human being, every human being is created in the image of God. We have God's image stamped on us. It's in us. It's part of who we are. Now, this has nothing to do with the physical body. Your physical body is not in the image of God. Okay? That's just a physical body to facilitate life in the physical world during this phase of our existence. Okay? But the real you isn't your body. The real you is inside you. Your heart, your mind, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's that part of you which will continue to live after the body dies. Okay, that's the real you. And that belongs to God. It is in God's image. Now, part of being created in God's image is that you are self-determined. You have free will, and you make your own choices, you make your own decisions, you do what you want to do, which is why there's so much evil in the world, right? Because people make bad choices. They indulge themselves and do ugly, silly, childish, foolish, hurtful things, right? That's why there's evil in the world, because people have free will and they make bad choices, okay? But the real you, because you were created by God in his image, you're the same kind of being he is, okay? The same fundamental kind of being. He is a thinking being that will always exist. See, now that you have begun to exist, you will always exist. God has always existed and will always exist. You and I did not always exist. But now that we do exist, because God created us, we will exist forever. Okay? And we are like him in that sense. But we are self-determined and we make our own choices. So here's the question. Satan and other spiritual beings, they are also created in God's image. That is, they have free will. They're self-determined. And many of them chose to turn away from God and go in a different direction. Satan being the leader of that movement, right? And Satan wants to hurt and wants to destroy as many people as he can, pulling them away from God, right? And destroying them in the sense that because you don't have a relationship with God, you're separated from God, and that's a bad place to be, okay? Now, Satan will use any means he can to accomplish that. So here's the question. Just as the Pharisees were trying to trap Jesus to get him to say something that would get him in trouble, Satan tries to trap or trick you and me. He's there all the time. Not him personally. He sends his demons out to do his work, right? Because he can't be everywhere at once like God is. He's limited in space and time. So he sends out his representatives to do the tempting and the tormenting and the harassing. And they use the same methods. They do anything and everything they can do to try to trick us and trap us into doing the wrong thing. Now, how do they do that? Well, they lie to you. That's Satan's main tool, is that he and his servants lie to you. They say bad things to you, bad things about you. They're bad things about other people, right, that you know or that you care about. And their goal is to make you angry or to frighten you or to make you sad, right, to depress you, to do anything that will get you to make a bad decision. They'll try to make you want revenge and get even with somebody, right? Satan will try to get you to indulge yourself. He'll lie to you. He'll tell anything they can do, anything they can lie to you about, they will lie to you to try to get you to do the wrong thing. So here's a question. Are you going to let him do that? Are you going to let him trick you? Are you going to let him trap you? They tried to trick and trap Jesus, and Satan will try to trick and trap you. You're going to let him do that? Well, how would you keep him from doing that? He seems to be more powerful than we are. He can do things we can't do. And they use all of these lies and tricks and deceit and all this stuff to how are we going to keep them from doing that? Well, you have to know what Satan's voice sounds like. You have to know when you're being lied to. You have to know when you're being manipulated. You have to know when somebody's trying to lead you down a dead-end road that ain't going anywhere, that's just going to give you hurt and pain, that's going to make you suffer. You don't want to do that. You have to be able to differentiate between Satan's voice and the lies he tells through his servants and God's voice and how God is trying to lead you down a good path to help you grow and learn and become a better person. You see, there's only two ways you can go in life. You're either going down the road with God or you're going down the road with Satan. And the more you're trying to go down the road with God, the more Satan is trying to get you, pull you away from God, and get you to follow him. And he does that through lying to you and trying to trick you. Just like the Pharisees and the Herodians did to Jesus. But Jesus saw through it, and he said, no, we're not going there. And he gave them an answer that they couldn't cope with. And so they went away defeated. You need to be able to send Satan away defeated, because you recognize his lies and you say, no, we're not going there. I'm not going there. Get away from me. Just like Jesus said, get behind me, Satan. You need to say the same thing. Get out of here. I'm not listening to your lies. You see, that's the way you need to respond to Satan. Now, you don't have to say it out loud if you don't want to, but I think sometimes it's good to say it out loud. To say, get out of here. I'm not listening to your lies. Go away. And then start talking to God. Start praying. The more you talk to God, the less you're going to be listening to Satan. That's true. So think about these things. You're going to let Satan lie to you and trap you by his trickery and lies? Or are you going to say no? Think about that. And while you do, as always, read your Bible, pray, go to church, and may God bless.